Hello, my name is Jacob, and you're watching my show about literature. And only literature. The question of Kim's cultural identity is examined at length in Kipling's novel and is one of the major plot points. He argues that one's cultural identity is not defined by nationality or race, but rather by one's upbringing. To see oneself as a member of a particular culture, you must be raised within it. Such is the case of Kim, who was born to the parents of Irish colonizers, but is raised within the lower social rungs of India. What is interesting to note is Kipling's use of external trappings such as clothes and social standing to contrast and illuminate the inner conflict of his titular character. The various disguises that he wears, sometimes out of preference and other times out of necessity, do wonders to illustrate how easily he is able to slip into the skin of everyone else but his own. It is important to realize that at the beginning of the novel, Kim does not look at himself as a European, but rather as a peculiar addition to the myriad of cultures that populate India. However, in spite of his self-affirmation as a native Indian, he cannot escape the fact that his lineage and facial features identify him as white. As Kipling remarks, though he was burned black as any native, though he spoke the vernacular by preference, and his mother tongue in a clipped, uncertain sing-song, though he consorted on terms of perfect equality with the small boys of the bazaar, Kim was white, a poor white of the very poorest. It is only after several jarring experiences that he faces and comes to terms with his cultural identity. To show just how ingrained Kim's self-perception was with that of a native Indian, Kipling sets up a series of encounters with the European world that causes Kim to experience a great deal of confusion. The first is when he happens upon the Irish regiment marching through the jungle and fulfills the prophecy of the Red Bull. In another life, he would have been right at home, but considering that he was raised an Indian, the culture that he experiences is totally foreign. When he sneaks into the mess hall, for example, he interprets the dinner toast as a religious offering to the Red Bull, which is part of the regiment's emblem. His conversation with Father Bennett and Father Victor further illustrates his distance with European culture by his struggle to communicate in English. His education at St. Xavier's is another particularly striking moment in the development of Kim's cultural identity. We see him react in a negative fashion to what he sees as a cruel and miserable world of torture. This is more than understandable when one considers that Kim had received no formal education and was left to do as he pleased. The strict school environment certainly did more than its share to put a sour taste in his impression of European schooling. But as with all things, the friend of all the world persevered and adapted to this strange world of books and harsh schoolmasters. Strangely, his adaptation does not come without confusion. As Kim states, "Hi, my! I go from place to another as if it might be kickball. It is my kismet. No man can escape his kismet. But I am to pray to Bibi Mariam, and I am a sahib. No, I am Kim. This is the great world, and I am only Kim. Who is Kim?" He considered his own identity a thing he had never done before, till his head swam. The conflicting European culture that was introduced to his understanding of the world is perplexing to Kim. He begins to realize that his outward features dictate how others perceived him and pigeonhole him into certain social functions. Mahbub Ali cautions him that one must never forget that one is a sahib, and that one day, when examinations are passed, one will command natives. So while Kim feels more at home in the role of a low-caste Indian street urchin, his rightful place is as a European colonizer who maintains the status quo of British dominance. So here we see the conflict of social perception working against his personal experience. Ultimately, we see that Kim rejects the European mold that is forced upon him and readopts his first love, which is the nation of India. When questioned by Mahbub Ali, "And who are thy people, friend of all the world?" he replies, "This great and beautiful land." Kim comes to the realization that no one individual or entity can dictate who you are as a person. Only through an intense process of self-validation can one do that. Perhaps the greatest sense of cultural completeness that Kim attains is at the end of the novel, where he falls prostrate to the ground, and Kipling relates to us that the ground was good, clean dust. No living herb is that living is halfway to death already, but the hopeful dust that holds the seed of all life. He felt it between his toes, patted it with his palms, and joint by joint, sighing luxuriously, laid him down full length along the shadow of the wooden pinned cart. And Mother Earth was as faithful as the Sahiba. She breathed through him to restore the poise he had lost lying so long on a cot cut off from her good currents. His head lay powerless upon her breast, and his open hands surrendered to her his strength. In the end, all Kim needed to understand who he was as a person was what had raised and had sustained him in the first place. He is a child of India and nowhere else. His mother is the land itself, and he thrives by it. Thanks for watching. This is where I'm going to end the discussion of Kim, and hope that you really enjoyed it, because I know I really have. Stay tuned next week as we start the next book, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. And please, if you enjoy watching the show, don't forget to like and subscribe. Peace!